Welcome back to Saving the Republic with Joe Staten, presented by Grab Your Gear Network, where we speak to trades workers, merit shop workers, anybody who works hard, really, but especially those in the trades. This show and this channel is for you. Okay, so we bring you guys the news that you need to hear about that is specifically going to affect your life that you're probably not going to hear about from the mainstream news. And we do it 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now, the schedule for the next couple months probably will not necessarily be exactly on those 3 days, just for various reasons. I'm currently overseas, and sometimes the schedule is not in my control. But most of the time will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Today's episode will be up Tuesday. We'll be coming at you Wednesday and Friday as well. Now, we do have a documentary that you want to check out on the channel. Just briefly, I'm going to touch on this. The Union Hustle, which explores really the history of unions in America. And what we talk about in this channel is kind of exposing some of the bad practices and some of the things that are just anti-American that happens with unions, just to be frank about it. And that's what we're going to talk about today in today's show is President Trump's appointment to the Department of Labor, the Secretary of the Department of Labor. And this appointment here has risen some eyebrows, including my own, to be honest with you. Now, for some background, if you're new here, I am I would say fairly, reasonable person, but I do support President Trump and most of his policies and pro-America. But here at Grab Your Gear, we like to bring you guys the objective truth, and I will call balls and strikes. And, being somebody who knows, at least partially knows the issue of, freedom in the workplace, especially things like project labor agreements, PLAs. This appointment is not necessarily my favorite appointment. And this is a person who is very pro-union, who has been praised by many on that side of things. And so I'm going to share with you guys this article here from CNN. And this is how you know, right? This is how you know that I'm not pulling your leg here. The CNN is reporting on this from a pro-union perspective, saying that Trump made a good pick. Now, the person he picked is Representative Lori Chavez-DeRemer, okay? One of the most pro-union Republican members of Congress is his pick to be Secretary of Labor. And this person was previously, she ran for re-election this time around and did not win, interesting enough. But nonetheless, she was his pick. And her record is very interesting. Okay. She was one of only three Republicans who voted for something called the PRO Act, which to my understanding would give virtual amnesty to many illegal immigrants and was part of this bill an effort to expand the workforce, specifically the workforce that unions and these organizations could choose from. Because as we know, when certain projects are offered up, the Biden administration put out an executive order that I'm going to show you guys here in a second that essentially required anybody to bid on these projects. You have to comply with these hiring standards, including DEI standards, right? Transgender quotas, certain races quotas, certain race quotas to ensure equity in the workplace. These are the things that the government is mandating, which is, frankly, is Marxist. These are Marxist hiring practices. And this executive order here, I'm just going to share it right now, and we'll come back around to the labor secretary nomination. But check out what this executive order says. Okay, this is not good stuff. Accordingly, it is the policy of the federal government for agencies to use project labor agreements in connection with large-scale construction projects to promote economy and efficiency in federal procurement. And first of all, I'm not exactly sure how PLAs promote efficiency when we are artificially inflating wages by requiring companies to not be able to, bid on these projects in a fair manner, right? We all know there is an essential job tax that comes along with bidding on a project if you are not coming from a union. You're required to have your workers pay into these pension funds that they're never going to see, insurance that they won't be eligible to receive for 6 to 12 months. These are the requirements that people have to pay into. And this is something that the Biden administration put out. This is an executive order on February 4th. All right, the use of PLA agreements for federal construction projects. This is expanding upon the prior executive orders that President Obama did in the past, and something that people are worried about from the pro-labor side of things from a President Trump is that he could roll some of these things back. Now, to my understanding, in his first term, President Trump was not necessarily his nomination for Department of Labor last time around was definitely more anti-union. It was Scalia. Forget the first name, but Scalia, which was, had a very established reputation of being anti-labor unions. And so bringing it back around to this person, Lori Chavez-DeRemer, let's just read a little bit from this article and show you guys what she's all about. All right. Lori Chavez-DeRemer has built a very pro-labor record in Congress, the AFL-CIO, the nation's major federation of unions, said in a statement. But Donald Trump is president-elect, not Representative Chavez, and it remains to be seen what she'll be permitted to do as Secretary of Labor in an administration with a dramatically anti-worker agenda. And you might ask yourself, okay, what do they mean by anti-worker? Surely Donald Trump is not anti-worker, right? Well, let's go look at some talking points that these people say about Donald Trump and how he is anti-worker. And this is what they say. Donald Trump made it more difficult for workers to unionize. President Trump's NLRB appointees, as you might know, National Labor Relations Board, which has its own problems, empowered companies to classify workers as independent contractors rather than as employees, which will also exclude those workers from federal labor law protections. So previously, President Trump allowed, through his appointees to the board, allowed companies to essentially have an out to avoid, certain employees trying to unionize. And an interesting bone to throw in here, an interesting angle that I'm going to get into this much more in future videos. In fact, keep your eyes peeled probably this week. Probably near the end of the week, I'm going to put a video out more going in depth into this selection and also into some other things like Elon Musk's position on this. But just to touch briefly on it, Elon Musk in the past has been very anti-union, and he's in charge of DOGE, as you know, Department of Government Efficiency. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of the dynamic there with Elon Musk, because we all know how close he has become to the president and advising him. It'll be interesting to see some, Trump's appointees to the National Labor Relations Board and see how they kind of implement an agenda. As this labor secretary is very pro-union, I imagine that his appointments will not be as pro-union. Again, with Elon Musk's very anti-union stance, filing a lawsuit right now, he's actively litigating a situation in court that I forget the details on, but I'll go into that more at a later date. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. And then also you have the fact of the Teamsters getting behind Trump, and their leader getting cozy with Trump. So I guess a few different things could come out of this. But getting back to Chavez, let's see. It began with a company owned by one of his more ardent supporters, Elon Musk, arguing in court that a key federal labor agency, the NLRB, was unconstitutional and should not be able to enforce fining against employers. So kind of what I was saying there about Musk and, his record and very anti-union. But Sean O'Brien from the Teamsters, this is what I was saying here, was one of the people pushing for Chavez. So he says, O'Brien was one of those pushing for Chavez-DeRemer to be picked as labor secretary. In a tweet, thanked Trump for putting American workers first. Her nomination was also praised by Becky Pringle, the president of the National Education Association. So the teachers union is happy about this. I think that should be a pretty good indicator to ask some questions. We all know just the level of waste, right? And you could even call it embellishment, but just the level of waste that goes on with these teachers unions. And I would say unions in general. I don't want to generalize all unions, but honestly, at large, most unions have such a level of waste and fraud. And it's, as we say in the documentary, The Union Hustle, there's a cycle where we build up these union payrolls and we build up these expenses that only a small portion actually goes toward representing the union members. we build up this payroll, but then the payroll keeps growing because we bail them out, right? And the American Rescue Plan, $90 billion went toward union bailouts, toward their pension funds. So there's no accountability, right? All this money that goes to unions, which, by the way, if you are a merit shop and you bid on a PLA and you're paying into these pension funds that you're never going to see the money, guess what happens when that contract ends? All those funds that your workers paid into, they don't see the money. So where does it go? Okay, it goes in the union payroll, right? To the fat cats. But the bailouts come in, and so the payroll builds, and there's no accountability with the pensions, and then we have these expenses, all these company vehicles and outings and corporate lunches and dinners and everything, where money is just being wasted. So there's no accountability, and that's again, if the teachers union is supporting this person, I think that's a very good indicator that we might want to look at this person. Okay. Now, lastly, in this article is, let's see, they conclude by talking about some speculations about the secretary. Her nomination should not be used to project an image of a labor-friendly administration while pursuing policies that jeopardize the rights of workers. But Chavez's selection brought harsh criticism from some business groups that were looking forward to the same rollback of pro-union rules. While it's hard to predict what Chavez will do as a cabinet member, what we do know is not encouraging. Trump should keep on looking. Okay. So again, I'm going to make a video going more in depth to this. Wanted to get the news out there to you guys, put it on your radar, look into this. I'm going to be bringing a video going more into depth, but this appointment was kind of strange, right? And that's what I have on the ticker there at the bottom of the screen. It raises some eyebrows. He's building a coalition. In fact, Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks on Twitter was actually praising this selection, which again, Cenk has some positions which really, kind of even veer towards socialism. And actually, I think outright he owns socialist policies that he supports. So is this somebody you really want, people coming and supporting? Is this somebody that it's a good sign to see Cenk coming out and saying, yeah, I support this nomination? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And, we're scratching the surface in this video, in this episode about, some of the initiatives that unions support. You guys know this by now, probably, if you've seen any of our content. But if not, the reality is that there's so much money that goes toward initiatives which are antithetical to the goals of the Trump administration that it really just makes you wonder, why was this appointment made? Was it because of Sean O'Brien's relationship with Trump from the Teamsters? Because as we know, he is very cozy with Trump, right? This is somebody who keeps getting cozier with the president. So it could be from Sean O'Brien, but it could be, also just an appointment from Trump where, he's a little bit more left-leaning in some things. He's a little bit more liberal than most Republicans, notably, as we've seen in the past with abortion. He's not necessarily as hard line with abortion. So we will see what happens with this video to come, diving into this more on this person's background, some of their policies she has supported, which again, I've noted the one in this video, the PRO Act. Go check that one out. That's not a good policy that she supported. Amnesty for illegals, very interesting. So keep your eyes peeled in the story. We'll be bringing you guys some more content to follow this up, but wanted to put this on your radar. So let us know what you think down below in the comment section. Do you support this nomination? Do you support the president's direction? Recent poll came out, said 60% of Americans do support the direction of President Trump's cabinet. So let us know what you think down in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. And with that being said, I will see everybody next time around. Take care.